In this lecture, we'll explore Lightroom on the web, Lightroom CC on the web, and why it's so useful, and what some of the differences are so you can be effective no matter where you're editing. Before we get started, please have Lightroom CC open and a web browser. One thing that I feel is important to point out before we move on though is that Lightroom on the web is meant to be used on desktop devices, but not to do edits on a mobile device. So say if you go to an iPad and you go to Lightroom on the web, well, you can see your images, but you can't edit them. However, with that same iPad, you can use the Lightroom app and you can edit your images. So if you choose to use your phone or your tablet, the odds are you'll be able to see Lightroom on the web but not make edits. But if you use your phone or your tablet and you access Lightroom through the mobile app, you will be able to make edits. And so here's my recommendation is if you're using a mobile device, do not use the Lightroom on the web unless you only want to see your pictures. Use the Lightroom app if you're using your mobile device. If you're on your desktop, don't worry, they all work great. The bottom line is, if you're using a mobile, use the Lightroom app found in your app store. You'll never go wrong, and I think you'll have a better experience. Okay, now that you're at lightroom.adobe.com in your web browser, please go there if you're not there already. What you'll do is you'll click sign in, at which point you will be given access to Lightroom on the web. I want to point out a few things that are different about Lightroom on the web. Well, first of all, what is it? Lightroom on the web is Lightroom without the program. Remember, Lightroom CC's whole point was to go cloud-based and mobile, and they went so far cloud-based that they gave us the editor on the cloud so that you don't even have to use your local downloaded copy of Lightroom CC. You can just go to a web browser, which means you don't have to be on your computer to use Lightroom CC. You just have to have access to any web browser. Alright, so you'll notice that all the images that we have uploaded to Lightroom CC on desktop have been transported over to Lightroom CC on the web. And the good thing is that Lightroom CC course and all of the albums that we created are here as well. The interface on the left side looks very similar to what we've had before, whether it's adding a photo with the same dialog box and workflow that we had, looking at my photos, or sharing those photos. Once you're in the photo you want to edit, you'll notice there are a couple different options that we have here that look different than the Lightroom CC on your desktop. Photos will show all the photos that are in your albums. Display will allow you to change how they're displayed, similar to Lightroom CC on the desktop. We can use columns, or we can zoom in to individual images. We can also change the background from white to gray. The dialog box on the right will then show us the details of the image as well as the rating and the author. At this point, we could also share if we like by clicking on sharing. In order to share, you'll have to enable sharing, which will then allow you to generate links or embed these images. In sharing, you'll have to enable sharing, in which point you'll see that you have a link that you can either copy with the copy icon, paste directly or share directly to Facebook, or share directly to Twitter. There's also an embed, which will allow you to embed it in a web page. Of course, your preferences allow you to do things like allow downloads, show metadata, show location, and you can also give ratings with these similar 5-star rating to what's available in Lightroom CC. If we go back to photos, we can also see on the right-hand side there's an ability to start a slideshow, which if you click will automatically roll into that folder as slideshow. Escape to exit. We can look at best photo, which is an artificial intelligence-based algorithm to have Adobe show you what it thinks is the best photo. We can share in gallery, send to portfolio, only show in shares, guide to albums, guide to display view, or delete the album entirely. Of course, in the upper right hand corner, there's also sync activity, which once you've added or changed image, will show you the sync status, and your profile in the upper right hand corner to show who's logged in and what those credentials are. Now that we've given you a quick tour of Lightroom on the web, let's show you the differences in editing. We'll go to tutorial 2 for a moment, and we'll open the image that looks like an archway with writing on both sides. Should look like this. You'll notice right off that after we've double-clicked on that image and opened it up, there's an Edit This Photo tab in the upper left. Click that tab to begin the editing process, and what you'll notice is that similar adjustments are available to you in Lightroom on the web. Once it's been loaded, you'll be able to adjust exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites and blacks using the same dialog box and features that Lightroom CC on your desktop has. Similarly, color offers you the same control of tint, temp, vibrance, saturation, and the effects including clarity, dehaze, vignette, and grain are available. Click the arrows to expand or to collapse any of the individual menus. Of course, split toning also is available. The way these controls work is identical to the way they work in Lightroom CC for desktop, so we won't go over the tools individually and what they do and how they work. I just want to show you that they are available. Presets also not only are available, but have the same presets as available for Lightroom CC on your desktop. And the cropping tool works similarly as well. I do want to show you one feature worth pointing out. We'll go ahead and expand light, and then we'll bring the exposure up, and we'll bring the contrast down to -32. At this point, we'll click the upper left-hand corner's Save and Exit button. Once it's got a moment to apply those changes and save them, we can now click Escape, and we can get back to all of our folders and our albums. Here's what I want to show you next. Now we're going to close Lightroom on the web and open Lightroom CC for desktop, because what you'll see is pretty neat. Go ahead and close your web browser, open Lightroom CC. What we can do in Lightroom CC is go to My Photos, Tutorial 2. We can take a look at the image we just edited. Go ahead and click Edit, or E, the keyboard shortcut, and notice exposure plus 1.03, contrast -32. Those are the adjustments that we made in Lightroom on the web. What happened is Lightroom on the web recorded those non-destructive edits and applied them to our Lightroom CC desktop version. Now, because it's non-destructive, we can reset those. We're back to the original image. No matter where we edited it on, we're making non-destructive images to the full resolution image, whether it's mobile, web, or desktop. And that is why Lightroom CC is so amazing that it's gone cloud-based, mobile. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to pause the video now, and I want you to access Lightroom on the web, whether you plan to use it or not. I want you to go in and find this image. I want you to make the adjustments, save it, exit, and then open it up in your desktop Lightroom CC and reset the image to where it was. I'll give you 5 seconds of silence to pause this video and do that. Be right back when you're done.